Hey, it's Stu. This video is going to have two parts. The first part is going to be kind of an update on what's on my active TBR, which is a blend of books selected from the piles of possibilities of November, which are Booker Prize long list, short list authors, Native American Heritage, November, selections from the Women's Prize for Fiction, which are going to be strung throughout all the next and upcoming TBRs. And then some here are like on my 10 until the end. And in the case of a couple, which I'll start with this first one, which is Mexican Gothic by Silvia Morena Garcia. I actually hauled this at an independent bookstore. I believe I had some credits or was there. So this was around my birthday, and I've been extremely excited to try this book and this author. I also have a couple other, one other book by this author. This was a display book, and it has been on hold for a very, very, very long time, because if you know anything about me and my reading, I like to have a hybrid digital and or audio to go with the physical book, even though I love reading physical books, because then I can change the font or the background or the brightness depending on my headaches, because I get really sort of visually created headaches. This book will be read. So in the next, I have it now on Libby for around 3 weeks. So within the next 2 or 3 weeks, this book is getting snuck in. Another book that came off, which was an audio hold, was Giovanni's Room by James Baldwin. I haven't read any of James Baldwin fiction. It's actually an audiobook. And I had another book on this list that I plan to listen to next week, which might just get bumped, and I'll talk about that in a second. So I don't have a physical copy of James Baldwin's Giovanni's Room. I've yet to find James Baldwin, but I just realized that when I go to the Friends of the Library bookshop, I don't look in classics, and that's where he would be. So maybe when I go Saturday, and I'm going to do a book haul now and then talk about Saturday, as I'm talking this through with you, I'm going to go ahead and look on classics and see if he's there. The other book that came off hold, which had been on hold for a very long time, was R.F. Kuang's Babel, an Arcane History. I did start this book in this summer. I got some of the way through it. It didn't get prioritized over the summer, and so I put it back on hold, and it is finally off hold after several weeks of waiting. And this is on one of my 10 until the end, so this book feels like it should be a weekend read, and I have about 21 days to get this read. And so I'm thinking this weekend. It's a really gloomy kind of weather situation that I'm in right now, so this maybe will happen this weekend, depending on how I am and on my other books that I've already committed myself to. The book that I said that I was going to listen to, and I'd read the author's note and I'd listened to some of this already to see if that's what I wanted, was The Jacobean Building by Alal Aswani. This I hauled from a friend of the library in Corvallis, Oregon, little book sale for $1, and just thought it gave a good fall vibe, and was excited to get to some of my more recent hauls, so I picked that. And if I don't listen to it, because Giovanni's Room might bump it, it won't be an unhaul. I'll go ahead and put it back and predict that it'll come back into my piles of possibilities or reading TBR maybe in January, which is Muslim American Heritage Month, in which case I would be integrating stories of Muslims, although this is not necessarily American. This is Egyptian. This is a book in translation. So let me tell the translator as well, since I'm saying that, Humphrey Davis, about contemporary Egypt. Eleanor Oliphant is completely fine. Eleanor Oliphant is Completely Fine by Gail Honeyman, is a women's prize for fiction longlister. It also felt like a fall vibe. It also is a 10 until the end, and it fits on November. So this is going to be really my November pick to read. Maybe, yep, definitely next week I will get to this. And Calling for a Blanket Dance by Oscar Hokea is my Native American Heritage Month book. I had 3 Native American First Nation authored setting storybooks on this week's TBR. I'm done almost with all of that, and 3. No, I'm about to be done with the second in the stories of Sacagaweas I still haven't read. So Oscar Hokea is Cherokee, and this book is a newish haul. It is a signed book. And the protagonist is Native and Mexican heritage. And I believe this book is going to explore the ways that people fit and don't fit, what's expected or not expected of them in spaces, and how multiple identities play out in the lives of humans. But Calling for a Blanket Dance, and also the words that Oscar Hokea has written in here is let's help each other heal, makes me think that this book has a lot to do with healing and belonging. Kairos is the Booker pick. It was the International Booker Prize winner of 2024. And this book is by Jenny Eppernick, and the translator is Michael Hoffman. Yeah. And from what I understand about this book, which is not a whole lot, it's got a bit of a historical fiction vibe in that it takes place in East Berlin, right at the end of the division and right before sort of unification, before the wall fell. And what's happening is that in this book is it's exploring an affair, a long time affair between the 2 main characters. I believe there's an age difference, but I could be conflating because I've certainly read plenty of books, and maybe maybe the man's also a writer or writing professor or something like this, but again, I could be conflating. I've had a few books where that's the case, and so we're seeing how real lives happen. Well, history is happening around them, and that's what I know about it. I feel like that is a fantastic setting, especially compared to what I have going on in these other books, and I feel like this book will add that kind of diversity in setting and storytelling to this pile. And then finally, my final Booker selection, which is a small one, and that's why I'm adding it. And if I don't get to it, I think that's okay. This was hauled from a Little Free Library, so it's going to go back to a Little Free Library. If I or a friend who's a historical fiction reader, if I don't get to it in this reading, like in the next 3 weeks. And that's Pat Barker's Regeneration. I believe Pat won the Booker for this book. However, this is one of a trilogy, so it might have been for this or something else. But in any case, I didn't look that up. I've had this book for a while. This is World War I, so historical fiction. I don't know if it fully fits into historical fiction, but the setting's World War I, so I'm going to call it that. And again, it's a small kind of book. It also has a fall vibe, so I'm going to put it in this pile and see if I get to it, and then be real that maybe I don't necessarily like to read about war. It's not sort of the setting I prefer to be in, and I've said that before, so I'm okay letting it go if I don't read it in this next sort of reading epoch, this reading period of a week, 10 days to read the books in that stack. Maybe a little more Babel's thick. And there's a couple not physicals on my on my Libby shelf as well. So we'll see what I get to. I'm trying to be more graceful with myself on that. That being said, you can see why part of the pressure. I'm about to talk about my haul, and it's not a small haul, but it's not a big haul. It is my day to go to the Friends of the Library bookshop, get my 2 free books. And I got to the lower shelves today in some of these and just really went through them. And because they're the lower shelves, you have to sit down on the floor, and the way the stacks are, the books are shelved like this. So I actually had to like pull them all out and then put them all back, which I did do today. It was something that I sat on the floor and did lovingly and joyfully. And so I hauled several books from those lower shelves. Not this one though. This was on a higher shelf. This is Running the Rift by Naomi Benaron, yeah. And this is a winner of a prize that I don't know anything about, which is a Bellwether Prize for Fiction. The blurb here is by Barbara Kinsolver, and the book setting is in Rwanda, and it's a sports fiction about the Jean Patrick Nkuba, a young runner who dreams of becoming Rwanda's first Olympic track medalist. So I haven't been in Rwanda as a setting, and it called to me. I also just curious to know a little bit more about the prize, so I'll look that up and learn more about that. Okay, the next book is The Break by Katharina Vermette, and this has a blurb by Margaret Atwood, and this author and setting and protagonist is Métis, and as I just finished The Empire Wild and love that, I absolutely need another Métis book on my shelf. And so I'm happy to find this one. Other than that, I know there's a crime. I know it's about a crime. And there, even, if you know anything about The Empire Wild, you'll know that there's some wolves in it, and there's this like wolf-looking creature on the back. And if you don't know anything about the Empire Wild, you can watch my next week in review video and learn about it. This is also a winner of an award that I've never heard of, which is the Governor General's Literary Award. I haven't heard of many awards. I'm not an award follower, but I am curious about all things bookish, so I'll look that up too. Something tells me it's Canadian. Next is a person whose name I haven't any idea how to pronounce. So I'm going to do my best, and then I will later look it up and listen to it a few times. It's Eva Bjorg Agisdatter. And there's some symbols and sounds. So I did read a little bit about this author and the author's page, and the translator, who is Victoria Cribb. And this author, I think, is from Norway and then returns to Iceland. And I believe that this, she lives currently in Reykjavik. And this setting of this book is Iceland. So this is a mystery thriller. And I have another mystery thriller in this. There was a lot of thrillers, a lot of recently arrived thrillers today. And I'm not necessarily a big thriller reader, but it is kind of thriller time. I think people are into thrillers in these sort of like fall and winter months. I have read one other Icelandic author who was a mystery. It was a mystery. And it was set in Iceland during World War II. And actually, I'd never experienced like what was going on in Iceland in World War II. So as much as I talk about not really liking any more World War II books, it is interesting to find out even how many perspectives I'm still missing from an overly covered topic. Anyway, I don't think that The Girls Who Lie is set during World War II. However, I don't know anything about that. I think there's a disappearance, and then this is that kind of a thriller, and I am excited to give it a chance, as I almost always prioritize books in translation because they give sort of perspectives and settings that I'm not so used to. Another book in translation, and this is from Finnish, is True by Riikka Pulkkinen, and I'm not sure how those double consonants work from Finnish, but I did my best, and again, I'll look that up. This is a psychological thriller, and this very well could fit into November because it is about memory. Here, I'll read the little blurb. This is a psychological drama, not thriller, drama, that explores the nature of truth, lies, memory, and how stories have the ability to bend and change with time. I'm so interested in that as a concept. And by the way, the translator is Lola M. Rogers, and it's translated from Finnish. I've also not had Finland as a setting in any of my recent or maybe ever reading, so that's exciting for me. This is a fantastic cover. This cover called to me right off the bat as well. So there's a lot to, and it has French flaps, and it's just brand spanking new. A lot called to me in this book. So we'll see if I don't get to it sooner rather than later. But the truth is, the book that I think that I will get to the soonest is this one, which is Encircling by Carl Frode Tiller. And this is another book in translation from Norwegian. And the translator is Barbara J. Haviland. And okay, so this is a trilogy, and I'm not a series reader, and it's very hard to be a series reader when you haul books the way I do, which are at a little free libraries, friends of the library sales, or thrift shops, some kind of a scavenge. But that doesn't mean I can't use my local library to keep reading the trilogy if I like it, because I use my local library for every book that I even have the physical copy for, as I explained at the beginning of the video, because I like to have the hybrid because of the way in which I get headaches, especially by certain fonts and certain contrasts. And this is certainly one of those. Encircling, from what I understand, is a book about a man who loses his memory completely, and then he asks people from his past, however that comes to be, send him letters, I believe, and retell his past to him to create his memory. And it's a look at how people are perceived differently by different people and how memory works. And so he tries to patch it all together, and, you know, sort of how also what it means to be yourself as perceived by others. There's so many concepts of this. This is definitely a psychological drama as well. And I'm so compelled by it. I also really love this cover. And if I can get to it, this will absolutely fit into those November themes. And because this is the one I feel most compelled to read, I will probably just kind of set it in the pile of possibilities without a strict commitment, knowing that I might not get to it. But, you know, maybe I'll have to choose between this one and the other book in translation I have, which was the Booker Prize National Book finalist, International Prize finalist, in the Italian author. Anyway, let me keep going because I have a couple more books to talk about just really quickly. The Sacred Hunger by Barry Unsworth actually won the Booker, maybe 1992 or 1993. I think it was a share with Michael Adante's The English Patient. I had to read a little bit into this book, meaning read a few passages from it throughout the book to make sure that I like the writing style, because this is a chunker. This is a big, heavy, dense book, and I know that I'm reading Booker Prizes right now, so they feel more compelling to me, but this will not make the cut. I have a very good selection with a couple backups. So this would be for future reading or for next year's Booker pile of possibilities. That being said, I did decide to grab it. And we'll maybe spend a little bit of time learning more about it. It does feel like quite a commitment, so we'll see. Anyway, Mouth to Mouth by Antoine Wilson obviously was on one of those bottom shelves. It's a little thriller, and it felt fun and it felt different. And it's about a man who saves someone, and they end up being like a predominant art dealer. And yeah, and then because this art dealer is saved by this, I'm going to say, younger protagonist. He takes him under his wing, and then thriller things happen. Short chapters, you know, maybe pretentious because it's in the art world, maybe not, maybe compelling. I thought it seemed a little bit fun and not much of a commitment. When I just wanted, you know, a quick read and a page turner, that's what it felt like to me. So I grabbed it. It's one of my free books. So, and then my other free book was The Stone Gods by Jeanette Winterson. And besides this cover saying, you know, you need me, because you do, because of this cover, I think what I know or have heard about this book is it's a climate focused book, and speculative, maybe. Yeah, that's why I think I grabbed this book. That's why I think I grabbed this book. And it's 2017, so it's like that, you know, that age that I keep finding books on. I'll look more into it. It's also not a big commitment, so I can see myself reading it through any number of TBRs, and then also not feeling bad if I don't, and giving it to little free libraries. There you have it. That's where I'm at in my bookish week. Adding some things to the planned TBR from the piles of possibilities, and having a great week. By the way, just a quick ending conclusionary remarks. Reading has been going really well so far. I've really enjoyed my books, some more than others, but no DNFs so far. And I'm trying to really just keep it paced and say, you know, I have these planned to read, but you know, I don't have to read anything at any given time. I have to remind myself, because I'm someone who's very loyal to their commitments, and I think that's good. But I think with this much abundance, we have to practice being able to then say, no, I don't need to read that right now. I can read it later, or I can give that to somebody else to read, and I have other things, and if I want it in the future, it'll come back to me. So that's where I'm at, in a really good reading place. And stay tuned in a few days, several days, for my weekend reading review.